Sweet. What's going on, Facebook world? This is Dr. Terry, and my name is Kevin. I'm one of the owners of Precision Design and Build. And today we're going to talk about business expansion and why it blows up most businesses. It can be the death of your business if you do it improperly. And we're going to talk a little bit today about when is the right time to expand. Should you even expand? And yeah, we're gonna get into it. So, Terry, give me your thoughts. Just kind of your baseline thoughts on businesses growing in general.
In
What do you think?
general, babies, businesses, they're created to grow. That's my take on it right there. We could end it right there. They're created to grow. But actually, the problem is that most people in raising kids, in raising businesses, if you will, uh, we actually have a little bit of difficulty in that because we tend to think that it should just be easy and there's it should be an automated thing. You have the kid, they grow. You have the business, it grows. And so people don't really put the intention behind what they're doing the way they need to, and then it can kill your business. And so should businesses expand? Absolutely. Do they do it right all the time? Often not.
When do you think it's a good time to? So, a lot of people that are probably watching this, me included, at one point, right? They taken the solopreneur kind of route, right? They call themselves entrepreneurs, and nothing against it, but you're likely more a solopreneur if you're a one man or woman show. And a lot of times people have trust issues in terms of hiring employees. When do you think it's a good time to hire employees? Because you have kind of two schools of thought. One is, no one does it like I do, so I should be in control of everything because I can't trust anybody. And then the other school of thought is, everything should be delegated. Delegate everything. What are your thoughts on those schools of thought? Which one's better?
Well, I think that's a soft pitch there. I think delegation is always the better thing, but people don't delegate very well. They abdicate the things that they don't want to do, which basically abdication means I'm going to give away all of the different responsibilities that I don't want to do or I don't know how to do because they overwhelm me. So I'm going to have you do them. And then I'm going to complain when you don't do them right. And actually, I probably don't even know if you did it right or not. So I'm going to be confused for a while and then complain and then get mad at you. And that's abdication. And that happens a lot. And honestly, it's one of the big problems that businesses have when they start expanding is they abdicate a lot, but they're not really intentional about how they're going to expand. Um, but before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit, just a minute or two, about the idea of a business. You can either have a lifestyle business or you can have an empire business, and they're going to expand differently. And we're going to have a different intentionality about each one of them because a lifestyle business, boutique, or people really love the word bespoke. I can't stand that word anymore. But, a very small solopreneurship or entrepreneur that has a couple of people working for them, but they don't want to grow. They don't have really a desire to get huge. And then the empire has a desire to hit 20 million next year. I don't know anybody that has that idea that just started out recently, but I think that given how they put their systems, their processes, their business, their people, their communication together, it's very easy to do something like that if it's intentional. If it's not intentional, you're a train driving down a track without the track.
How would you define intentional?
Great question. Intentional is making moves, making decisions, using your strategy and using your communication to put the plan together and follow the plan and be flexible in the plan, but actually make sure you're paying attention to. And Kevin, you came up with the term that I really loved, which is micro monitoring, which is very, very different than micromanaging anything, but it's micro monitoring and being very, very aware of the data and very aware of where we are on that process. And a way I think about it is I drive from Portland to California. I've made the trip a lot. And the intentionality is paying attention to the mileage, paying attention to what's happening in front of me, paying attention to where I'm at and what's going on, rather than just driving around looking at the scenery and not knowing where I'm at. And so you want to be very aware of where you're at in your business. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about intentional.
So you mentioned before, like, so I feel like there's a bit of a gray area, okay? Because sometimes tasks that you decide to delegate, sure, it can come from a place of laziness, but sometimes it can also come from a place of incompetence. And then there's sometimes that gray area of how much should you learn of something before you hire for it? Is there any kind of framework you think about when in that position, right? Like, for example, like, say, like with me, right? I'm hiring carpenters. I'm not a carpenter. Should I be a carpenter first? Like,
Right. And the answer is maybe. Let's be politically correct. In some cases, yes. But no, I think that, realizing when you started your business, you knew from the very beginning you weren't going to be doing any of the hammering stuff together, or the cutting boards or measuring, and everybody that knows you and we know would be like, it's probably a good idea he doesn't do that. Right. I'm just teasing, but
he's
the
right though.
I don't know. I don't know well enough, but I'm pretty sure that if I asked Tyler, he'd be like, yeah, yeah, don't give him that. He can move boxes, but don't let him measure anything. And he's an expander. But the idea when you guys started that business was that you weren't going to do that. You were going to be focusing on the business stuff, but you have complete and open communication with Tyler, who's doing that other side. Now, Vinny joined you guys, and he has a lot more experience than even Tyler did. And so, with those two running that piece, you don't need to have that, but it's not because you abdicated it. It's because you intentionally had that conversation and made that decision when you started the business that you weren't going to be a part of it.
So let me ask you this then, right? Because I've heard, people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to use construction as an example because
Sure.
it's what I understand at this
Easy.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard this specifically, but sometimes people want to start businesses, such as say a construction business, without construction experience alone. What are your thoughts on that? Can it be successful? Is it a good idea, or should you?
Well,
And
yeah.
because some people do it, right? And I'm just kind of curious what your
Yeah, well,
thoughts are on
I'm
that.
curious about what you think, because I mean, I have my opinions, and I love them, but I'd love to hear what you think, because I mean, you actually did start a business. Well, you started two business with no experience, and you gained experience. And so, what was your experience? Because your investing experience, I mean, you didn't have any before you started.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, I meant like, without partners or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, my opinion on it is I don't think it's a good idea from a leadership standpoint, right? I think a lot of things, and I'm a very relational kind of thinker. Pretty much my best trait is being able to build relationships and utilize them and maximize them. That's If there's anything that I have that is good, that is it in terms of like a natural gift. And I've worked on it obviously with you and whatnot. So
Absolutely.
um, so I would say, you're gonna run into a leadership issue. There's gonna be an immediate divide. If you like, say if I started a construction company by myself and I don't have the experience and I and I plan on hiring people to work for me, not partnering, but hiring them, there's going to be an immediate divide of why am I building this for this person? Now, from an investing standpoint, if I'm hiring them, that's a different story, right? If I own the property and I'm hiring them as, they have their own business and I'm hiring for their services like anything else, that makes, that there's no problem there. But if I'm like, I'm going to be the head of this construction company and you guys are all going to work for me, I, I'm just lacking foresight because I'm not a carpenter. I haven't been in the field very much. And when I have, it's, for my own stuff, right? Um, so it's not true experience, I would say. So that's kind of my thought. I think, you have to think about, in terms of partnerships, if you're going to go into a field that you don't have hands-on experience in, like if I wanted to start a brokerage, I could do that myself. Like it would make sense. I'm a realtor, been a realtor. I understand the plight of being a realtor and what it's like to go from, starting your business to doing decent in it, to making some money. I understand the struggles, but as a carpenter, I don't. So I think you have to be cognizant of that before entering in any business. And I'm using construction as an example, but that goes for anything.
Yeah, and in fact, there was one deal that you were looking at doing that had a restaurant attached to it, and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this because I don't have any restaurant experience, really. I mean, and you were a server for a while or something like that, but running a restaurant, and
Right.
that's one of the biggest places that I've seen people make that mistake is they get into, I want to start a business, I want to start a restaurant, and they go and start a restaurant they've never done before. They don't know what goes into it. And
Right.
so I completely agree. And my opinion is if you don't have any experience in it and you want to do it, go get experience in it first, somehow, some way, whether you go and get the experience of being a server or work in the back of the house if it's a restaurant and you understand how things work, and then probably want to get into some management experience and manage for someone else before you go and own one. But honestly, um, people, I think, fall in love with the idea of owning their own business, and then they fall in love with the idea of something that they love to do. Like, oh, you know what? I love to eat. I think I want to have a restaurant. Or, you know what? I see all these construction companies, and I got paper over there. I think I'll do it. Um, or I've done some of my own work, so I'm going to start doing it for other people. And it can work. But I think the big thing is that if you don't have the experience, you're going to have to gain the experience as you build a business, and it's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 times as long as if you had the experience. And so, even when I start coaching the solopreneur who wants to start a business, they just quit their job or whatever it is, I always ask them what their experience is and what they've done before, so that we can really capitalize on their experience and move them into something to have a success. I think the people,
Mm.
I think the people in your office are really loud.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that
Just kind
sorry,
of
picking up some feedback.
a little bit.
Yeah, we had somebody walk in. Shut up. No, I'm just so I apologize for
This is live.
any feedback.
Live situations.
But but yeah, no, I do agree with that. I do think the alternative to that strategy would be partnering with somebody that has the experience, that has gone that
Absolutely.
road. But
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what you did with Precision is
right,
you had experience with business and you had experience with more of the marketing and growth side of business. And Tyler had experience with building stuff. And then Vinny coming in has a lot of experience with production. And so you guys being partners makes total sense.
right.
And so then we get to the idea of expansion. Well,
Yeah. I mean, I
double-edged
definitely.
sword, right?
What's that?
Could be a double-edged sword, right?
It certainly can be. I think it's I think a lot of times people try to expand. It's interesting. I see people on both ends of the spectrum. I see people that try to expand too quickly and implode, but then I see people that they talk big like they want to grow, but they take way too long to expand. Um, and I've
Yeah,
actually felt
talk about it
this.
and never do it at all. Um,
Exactly right. Like they're interested in it, but because it's okay if you're not, but people are interested in it, and then they just never take that leap because it's never going to be a perfect
right.
situation.
And
Um,
for me,
Go ahead.
working with those clients, those two avatars, so to speak, if I was to have to choose, I would want the one that is a little bit more chaotic or a little bit more uh, reactionary and actually doing stuff than somebody who's talking about it that really doesn't take action. Because we can always help somebody get back into
Hone it in.
the flow and get to intention, but it's very difficult to get somebody to take action when they're living in hesitation. And so
Mm,
I do absolutely like people who are taking action. Action takers is one of the things I like about you. And I mean, if we really just step back and look at precision, well, you expanded really quickly, attempted to
yeah.
last year, and we saw what could happen to a business if you expand before you're ready to, and you guys
Oh,
stepped back and reassessed where you were at because you were trying to expand and maybe weren't ready yet.
yeah. We almost went boom. Yeah, it was some good times there.
Yeah, and so talk a little bit about that because I know you're really private and don't talk about any of that stuff, but um, just for yucks and giggles, let's talk about it for a minute.
Yeah. My attitude, the way I kind of roll, I always think big, or I try to, right? It's I'm always thinking about big. I think big expansion, growing a business. I like that idea. I like the idea of a lot of people moving towards one cause. Um, However, there's certain things that need to be done and need to be in place before doing so that I didn't realize until after I did so. And one of those we talked about at last call, and I'm going to speak very blunt, like generally speaking on
Yeah,
this. You don't have to bore people with the details, but um, one overall function of a business that I think needs to be in place is some kind of data collection. Because expanding, and when I say expanding, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of like people, right? Hiring somebody is expensive. Firing somebody is more expensive. And because now you got to replace that person, you likely built your business. It started, it involved that role. Now it has to be fulfilled in a dysfunctional kind of way. Well, it doesn't have to be dysfunctional, but and now you're pressured to fill that role, which tends to lead to it being done in a dysfunctional way, desperation, right? Um, so I think having data collection is super important. When I started, I just thought, me and Tyler thought the game was more foreman. Just keep getting more foreman. The more guys that can run jobs, the better they'll go. And we thought all experience was good experience. And again, we were making these decisions not based on any data. We weren't even sure if we were making money on jobs. We weren't making sure, how we weren't tracking time. Again, like you said, with the micro monitoring. Um, so for us, data collection has been a game changer. I also think there is a level of competency that is involved too, right? Um, and a certain amount of luck, so to speak. Luck and being able, because ultimately, what I'm realizing is the way to expand properly, you need to attract the A players. And not to go completely off topic into the details, we talked about that in another video, but the hungry, humble, smart model. The more people that you have that are an ideal team player, the faster your business will grow. But one metric I kind of have in my head that I think anybody can kind of apply no matter what, on whether or not expanding their business is the right move, or if the expansion worked, kind of looking at it retroactively. Is this person adding stress to my life or taking away stress in my life?
absolutely.
And all the best hires that we've had have taken stress away. It's like we immediately know when stress is added, when it's somebody, even if, and this is regardless of the situation at hand. Because if you truly have an A player, they'll be willing to clean up the messes of others, is what I've found. So
Mhm.
even if they're kind of thrown into like not the best situation, your stress will be lowered. Maybe they reveal certain things to you that you didn't realize that may increase your stress. That's separate, but the person themselves is not adding stress to your life. So I think that stress metric is very useful in terms of deciding whether or not to expand, and if you got the right person in the right role for the expansion. Am I more stressed or am I less stressed?
I love that, and it's funny because that is data, and we talked about that in a video last week. I think talking about the idea of um, behavior and emotion is actually measurable, but the problem is most people don't measure the people the right way, and they just look at behavior, but they don't look at what's driving it. And so I'm really good at teaching people how to measure that stuff and really pay attention to what that stress level is happening and all that. And I think it's
Right.
very important what you just said, because we make the mistake over and over and over of thinking, well, I want to make more money, so I got to expand, so I got to hire more people, and we hire for coverage instead of hiring for culture. And then the
Right.
expansion starts to actually be very, very rocky. And it's like tectonic plates, because nobody's got trust going on because we hired for coverage. So we really don't know what we hired. And we don't really know why we hired them, other than that they could cover a shift, or they could help us fulfill here or there. And there wasn't a real good, strong game plan. And so
Right.
the biggest thing that I see with that is people think, I want to make money, so I want to expand. And they think, and I like the way you said that expansion is people, because expansion also doesn't have to be employees. But if I'm a solopreneur and I want to expand, or I want to grow my business and make more money, I have to expand my partnerships with other businesses that can fulfill where I don't. And so that's expanding a network and expanding joint venture partners and things like that. And that's one of the things that I started helping people with when I was coaching uh, real estate investing. Is, let's not think about hiring, because we don't need to, but you got to think about who you're going into deals with and how you're vetting those deals, how you're vetting those people. Because if you want more deals, you have to have more people and more money. You can
Right.
do as many deals as you can fund. And so how do we actually go about doing that? And then we got to get creative with the money. But before we do that, we have to make sure that these people are people to be in the deal with. And
Right.
people make a lot of mistakes with that. And they make a lot of mistakes in business deals, in real estate, and in investing, and any kind of investing, really. I mean, we know in our group of friends, we know somebody that ripped people off for about 50 or $75 million, that appeared trustworthy on the surface, but we they didn't vet him well. And so think about that in your business. Is, who are you letting in your business? And I honestly, and I we talked about this when we were building your hiring processes. Really, we want to make sure that we're actually removing people, and it's a people removal process rather than a people bringing on process. And it's like, no, this person doesn't fit. No, this person doesn't fit. No, this person doesn't fit. Oh, look, we got somebody who seems like they fit. Oh, wait, they don't fit. And then really making sure that we are intentional and focused around, is this person going to remove stress in our lives, or are they going to add it? They may have the skills, but are they coming with skills and adding stress, or are they coming in removing the stress? And maybe we even got to teach them skills, but they remove the stress because they're a part of our team.
Right.
And
And
that's
and to build on that, right? And that's why it's so important to have some kind of data, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be sometimes too much data. You don't want to be oversaturated, but some kind of metrics. And again, this is one thing, having a coach, especially like Terry, who's in the psychology world. He's a doctor, he's a psychologist. He quantifies behavior, makes it measurable. That's super useful in terms of expanding people wise. But if you're expanding technology wise, like Terry mentioned, I was coming from a people perspective, but if you're expanding, in other ways, which you certainly can, you just want to have some kind of metric, because other than that, if you don't have measurables, you're gambling.
Well, and I have a client right now who does process integration, but she starts out with stepping back and going, okay, what is your process right now and where is it broken? And she'll map out your whole process in a schematic that is just, I see it, my eyes roll back and I pass out. But it's like very, very clear of how the information is moving or not moving and where it's getting stuck or broken. And then she'll intentionally put into the flow how it's supposed to move and where the opportunities to fix it are. And she charges astronomical amounts to do this because she's worth every penny. And I mean, she's done it for insurance companies and mortgage brokers, and she's doing it for an Amazon store right now. And the funny thing is when I look at what she's doing, because she's showing me and talking about it, because she's wanting to talk through her own process to be able to present the process to somebody else. And so she's like, where I'm getting stuck is this place. And I see the process. I'm like, God damn, that's insane how in depth that can get. But if you're not intentional about it, every place where there's a stop, you could just think of blood spurting out in the form of green dollar bills, right?
Right.
And so all of these different places, the other visual that we talked about is think of the sewer system and the way the water flows in your business is the same as the cash flow. And every place your process is messed up is where you start to lose money in that flow of it. And so where are the missing links in your process, and where are the missing links or opportunities to be able to tighten it up and make information flow better? Because if your information is flowing, your money's going to flow better too.
100%. Yeah, the processes of data collection, it's definitely another piece of that as well. Making sure that's smooth, it's easy to analyze, and you're not overwhelmed. Like, I'm not a huge I don't want to see every little piece of data. I just want to see the major ones, and
right. And you just said something, and we've talked about stress a little bit. If there's stress or there's frustration or there's fear, it's because you don't know something and you're not talking about it. And so there's an avoidance that increases the stress. And that is what's going to kill your business in expansion. And so expansion has to be talked about. It has to be really planned and strategized. And one of the big things that Christine and I do when we're working with people is really look at people's strategic anchors and identify 3 strategic anchors. And if expansion is somewhere in a 4th or a 5th anchor, so to speak, or something outside of the 3 anchors, if you can't fit it into your strategy, then you don't want to expand there. And so you want to really keep it tight and intentional and be aware of, ooh, it's a shiny object. Yeah, but is it your shiny object? Well, no, it doesn't really work for me. It just looks cool. Right, leave it out. And so the idea of expansion and where it kills people is they get too excited about moving forward, and they're not thinking of the places where there's potholes that can pop your tires or what on the way to or where there's breaks in the track. You need to pay attention to where there's breaks in the communication, where there's breaks in the hiring system, where there's breaks in the data system, and the data is going to tell that story. And so you got to really be aware of what's happening in it and then understand why it's happening so you can fix it.
100%. So if we were to boil it down, let's say somebody's watching this video and they just skip to the end. If we were to boil down kind of, a 3 to 4 key points to think about, very basic, on what to do before expanding, what would you say?
I find it very simple. Get clear. Number one, you got to get clear. You got to look at the vision of your business and understand why you want to grow. And then you want to look at who's in your business And all these people working from the same framework that you are? And then really what your strategy for growth is. And if your strategy is saying, yes, this is a good idea, this works inside my business, like for your business as a construction business, well, let's do an Amazon store. That doesn't really make sense for it, right? Okay, so that doesn't make sense. I've got a chiropractor who an Amazon store does make sense because he sells a lot of stuff that Amazon has. And so having a storefront makes sense for him, but it doesn't for you because you don't do that. And so understanding what the strategy is to say yes or no to opportunities within your business, and then who does what in the business, and are they a stress adder or a stress reliever? And that's really the big pieces to be able to expand fast.
Hell yeah, I'm on board. I agree. Um, and then I would probably just add maybe one more. Just make sure you're collecting the data along the way,
Oh,
best you
absolutely.
can.
Data. If you're not, yeah, I didn't mention it because I just no brainer.
Yeah,
You
it's
gotta
part of the get
watch the
clear.
data. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's part of the intentionality. If you're not looking at your data, you're on autopilot.
right.
And you know, most of the time, if we're on autopilot, we do stupid stuff.
Agreed. You're gambling. So use data, people. It works.
Absolutely. So I
So
think that's what we got for today. Expansion can kill your business if you're not intentional and you're not clear about where you're going and how you're going about doing it.
100%.
All right, we'll
Appreciate
see
everybody.
you next week.
Yes, see you next week. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for your time.